Good morning, everyone. Today I am going to read you a story that goes along with our social studies of then and now. You have looked at Pebble Go and learned a little bit about how people moved from one place to another a long time ago and what that looks like today. And you've also read a little bit about how people communicated back then and compared to today. The story I'm going to read you is about a family from long ago. It is called The Oxcart Man, and it's written by Donald Hall, and the pictures are by Barbara Cooney. Oxcart Man. In October, he packed his ox into his cart, and he and his family filled it up with everything they had made or grew all year long. That was left over. And you can see that kind of looks like the cover. This is the farmer, and here's his ox, and there's his cart. I wonder what are some of the things that a family would have packed long ago in their cart. Let's see. He packed a bag of wool he sheared from the sheep in April. He packed a shawl his wife wove on a loom from yarn spun at the spinning wheel. He packed 5 pairs of mittens his daughter knit from yarn spun in the spinning wheel from sheep sheared in April. So this is a shawl, something a woman would wear over her shoulders to keep her warm. And this is all the wool that he cut from the sheep. And there's the daughter's mittens that she made also from the wool. He packed candles the family made. He packed linen made from flax they grew. He packed shingles he split himself. He packed birch brooms his son carved with a borrowed kitchen knife. So here's the linen. Linen is a type of fabric that's actually made from the flax. These are the brooms that the son made, and they make those from twigs from a birch tree. Here's the shingles that the farmer split. Those are shingles that you would put on your roof. He packed potatoes they dug from the garden, but first he counted out the potatoes, enough to eat all winter, and potatoes for seeds next spring. He packed a barrel of apples, honey and honeycombs, turnips and cabbages, a wooden box of maple sugar from the maples they tapped in March, when they had boiled and boiled and boiled the sap away. He packed a bag of goose feathers that his children collected from the barnyard geese. I wonder what he's going to do with all of those things that it took them, sounds like a year, to collect and to make and to grow. When his cart was full, he waved goodbye to his wife, his daughter, and his son, and he walked at his ox's head for 10 days, over the hills, through the valleys, by streams, past farms and the villages. You can see, here he is leaving his farm, and he's going up through the town, and he's walking for 10 days. Where do you think he's going to be going with all of those things? He walked and walked until he came to Portsmouth and Portsmouth Market. Well, this looks a little different from that farm. You can see there's a ship in the background. This kind of looks like what a bigger town would have looked like a long time ago. Almost like if you went to a city today, that's what that would be like. He sold the bag of wool. He sold the shawl his wife had made. He sold the 5 pairs of mittens, the candles, and the shingles. He sold the birch brooms, the potatoes, the apples, the honey and honeycombs, the turnips, and the cabbage. He sold the maple sugar. He sold the bag of goose feathers. There's the shawl, remember? There's the cabbages. So he's selling everything that the family had made throughout the year, or whatever they had grown. And what he's going to do with all that money. Then he sold the wooden box that carried the maple sugar. He sold the barrel that carried the apples. He sold the bag that he carried the potatoes in. And then he sold his ox cart. So he's selling everything. Then he even sold his ox and kissed him goodbye on his nose. When I read this book the first time, I was a little surprised to hear that he had even sold the ox. Then he sold the ox's yoke and harness, and with his pocket full of coins, he walked through Portsmouth Market. He bought an iron kettle to hang over the fire at home, and for his daughter, he bought an embroidery needle that came from a boat in the harbor that had sailed all the way from England. And for his son, he bought him a new knife for carving birch brooms with. And for the whole family, he bought 2 pounds of wintergreen peppermint candies. Now, this is what a store long ago would have looked like. Not like when we walk into Stop and Shop or Big Y. You could see the fabric in the background. This is where they would have kept some of the grains or candies. Notice there's some cheese. It's a lot different than the stores that we have today. Then he walked home with the needle and the knife and the wintergreen peppermint candies tucked into the kettle. He put a stick over his shoulder, stuck the kettle's handle through, and with the coins still in his pocket, began to walk home. So now he has to make that trip all the way back home, but he's all by himself now. And he has nothing but the items that he bought and the money in his pocket. He walked past farms and villages and over hills and through valleys and by streams until he came back to his farm, and his son, his daughter, and his wife were waiting for him. And you can see over here he's walking back up toward his farm. He gave his daughter the needle, and she began to stitch. His son took the Barlow knife and started to whittle, and they cooked dinner in their new kettle, and afterwards everyone ate wintergreen peppermint candy. And that night the ox cart man sat in front of his fire, stitching a new harness for the young ox that was in the barn. And there's that kettle that he bought. Are you noticing that they're starting to actually do some of the things all over again? They're starting to make some of the things they had made before. It's kind of like a circle story. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it starts at the top, and as that story goes through, it comes back, and then it starts all over again. He carved a new yoke, and he sawed planks for a new cart, and he split shingles all winter long. So it's winter time again. What do you think's going to happen once the spring comes and once the summer comes? While his wife made flax into linen all winter, and his daughter embroidered all winter, and his son carved brooms from birch all winter, and everyone made candles. And the candles they made were from the wax from the bees. And you can see the wife she's spinning the flax into cloth, and you can see the daughter is embroidering in the background. And the yarn is hung up to dry. And in March, they tap the sugar maple trees and boil the sap down. So this is how we get maple syrup, even today, except that we use a little bit fancier machines. And you can see they're boiling the sap. And the little buckets they have the sap from the trees. And in April, they sheared the sheep and spun the yarn and wove and knitted. So here they are shearing the sheep, cutting all that extra wool off. These are already been sheared. You can see this one's waiting. And they'll take all of this wool and they will spin it into yarn so that they can make mittens and sweaters and things like that. And in May, they planted potatoes, turnips, and cabbages, while apple blossoms bloomed and fell, while bees woke, starting to make new honey. You can see it's starting all over again, isn't it? So what do you think he's going to do once all of the plants have grown? And the geese squawked in the barnyard, dropping their feathers as soft as clouds. So that kind of tells you a little bit about what it was like long ago to live in a family where we didn't have all the things that we have today. So this is far different from how we live. And to close up today, I want you to think about some of the things that happened in the story and some of the things that you learned how the family lived from long ago. And I want you to talk with someone in your family about the difference. Some of the things that you noticed were maybe the same, and some of the things that were different about how we might shop or live or how we get our food and money today. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you again tomorrow.